Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupine Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Samasta Janakalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Paramananda Madhavam. All right, so let's go ahead and we will read from verse number 8. We'll read verses 8 and 9 together. Niyatam kuru karmatvam karmajyayo hyakarmanaha sharira yatra pichate na prasidhyed akarmanaha. Yajnarthat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangas samachara. All right. So we established in the Bhagavad Gita that Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, you must act. You must perform karma yoga to purify your mind so that you can be ready for Jnana Yoga. So this we've established so far. And he also says what kinds of karma to perform, that niyata karma. Niyata karma means nitya and naimittika, means daily duties and also the occasional duties. This must be performed. And he says you perform this because this is better than not doing anything. And if we just go through life without doing anything, then we will enter in a pool of laziness, a karma. A karma here is this laziness, not doing any action, where our potencies and abilities won't be able to express, and all our God-given talents will just go to absolute waste because we're not using them. And he says, even for Sharira Yatra, even to take care of the body, one needs to act. So one cannot just sit there. And there also have been studies shown that people who are just sitting there and not doing anything, they can get really sick because the body starts to accumulate weight, the muscles get, they get stiff. We don't use our body, it stops moving. We have unfortunately somebody in a hospital, our teacher, Sri George Romney, and he's been in bed rest for a while, almost 1 month, and now he has to learn how to walk again. Now his state is not a karma. His state is because there was some illness, right? There was COVID, there was some illness, so now he has to work on getting back up again. That's very different. That is something that has its own, there is a reason for everything like that happening, but that has its own growth. It has its own process. What the Bhagavad Gita here is talking about is somebody who is lazy on purpose. not somebody who's gotten sick or become ill or has some kinds of restrictions by which they are not able to move. That's a very different story. I'm bringing this up because this question was asked. So here, akarma is the one who is lazy on purpose, not doing anything just because, just like that. So Lord Krishna says, the one, you must do karma because karma is better than akarma. Then in verse number 9, which we started last week, we saw that yajna, that how should you do this karma, and do it in the spirit of yajna. Now, what is this here in this verse 9? So let us go through it. Yajnarthat. So yajna here we said is Bhagavan, but it's also for the sake of sacrifice. So yajnarthat. Artha means for the sake of sacrifice, for the sake of God. Karmanaha, actions should be done. Anyatra, other than that, if one does actions other than that, what happens? Ayam lokaha karma bandhanaha. This being becomes bound. So ayam lokaha here means person. This person, karma bandha, becomes bound by karma if they perform actions anyatra, other than for the sake of sacrifice. And so therefore Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, tad artham karma kaunteya. Tad artham karma kaunteya. For this sake alone, karma kaunteya, you should perform action. For what sake? For the sake of yajna, you should perform. And he says, how, in what spirit? Mukta sangaha means free from attachment. Samachara. Samachara, perform it well. So what does it mean? So this verse is telling us, look, perform action. Now we know what kind of action to perform, but there are two options here. Either we perform action to be free from action, or we perform action to get further bound in action. So either we perform action in order to free ourselves from the doership of action eventually, or either we perform it and just get drowned and drowned and drowned by it. What is this drowning or bondage in action? We know that the cycle of action does not end. We studied this in chapter 2, that when we desire something, then we act upon it. And after we act, we get the result. We enjoy it so much, we want to act again. So I desire to go somewhere, to go to a nice place. And I enjoyed it so much, then again I want to go back. And then again I want to go back. And again I want to go back. So it keeps pushing me back in the same action. And I am stuck in this cycle of doership and enjoyership. I want to do this because I want to enjoy. I want to do because I want to enjoy. And like this, life goes on and on and on and on for years. So if we just keep performing action just like that, without any spirit of sacrifice, we will get bound by it. But the one who performs action for the spirit of yajna or sacrifice, they're actually freed from this chain. Now, how are they freed from this chain? Because first of all, every single action, remember this formula I gave you, dip, they dedicate it to Bhagavan, to the higher. And the I here means that they become complete instruments of God. And the P here is they take everything as prasad. So they dip themselves into action. They don't drown into action. So they become free because they're dedicating it to a higher altar. So if you say, this is for God, this is for Bhagavan, this is for the good of society, the good of humanity, it's to a higher altar. So there's some sense of release there. And in that we say, just use me as an instrument. I am just an instrument of your grace. And whatever happens, I'll take it as prasad. Whatever happens, I'll just accept it. And so when we go through life performing action this way, what happens is a sort of dispassion kicks in. where we no more crave for the world. We no more crave for the world because we've been offering everything to God, offering everything to God. At some point, we're going to say, you know what, God, I just want you now. I'm offering everything to you, saying everything is for you. But at some point, we're going to say, I just want you. I don't want any more of this. I just want you. And so that will kick in. And when that kicks in, then one starts to enjoy that freedom. That things are not things, I'm not doing things are being done through me. This is the difference. In the beginning, I'm doing something. So because I'm enjoying, I'm going through ups and downs, I'm going through this samsara. But after some time, things are being done through me. So I'm just an instrument. Now, if I meant to rise, I'll rise. If I meant to fall, I'll fall. But it's completely letting go in God's hands. So at some point, that does happen. So how to get to this point first is just offer everything to God. Everything from when we wake up, from when we bathe, from when we eat, when we speak, when we clean our homes, when we dress up, when we work, everything, just make it a worship unto the higher. Just say, by this action, I hope to reach you. I hope to feel you. I hope to connect with you by this action. And that's why for Hindus, there is no specified time of prayer, that on this day, at this time, we pray. Because everything is prayer. Everything is prayer. Everything is prayer. So every time I'm eating, it's a prayer. I'm waking up, it's a prayer. I am seeing something, it's a prayer. Everything is a prayer to God. Because by everything, we just want to get to God. That is what it is. That is what a seeker is. Every action is to get closer to God. And that's why the meaning of yajna is God, but the meaning of yajna is also sacrifice. Because by this sacrifice, I attain God. Somebody just messaged here the acronym DIP. The acronym DIP means, D means to dedicate to higher. I means be an instrument of that action. And P means prasad. Whatever I get, let it be prasad. So in this way, when we perform action with the spirit of yajna, what happens is we become free of that action. We eventually become free from the doership and from the enjoyment. And it flows through us. Can you give an example? Yes. In our traditional yajnas, before there were a lot of fire rituals, they used to say, Indraya swaha idam namama. I'm sure you've been through these rituals. Indraya swaha means it's for Indra, for the devatas, for something higher. And then idam namama, this is not for me. Whatever the result of this yajna is, idam namama, it's not for me. So traditionally, when they used to perform yajnas, it used to be this, swaha idam namama. It used to be in this spirit also. Okay. All right. Yes, exactly. Like Shiva Manasa Puja, Vishayopa Bhoga Rachana. That is exactly right. Yes. So this is the spirit of yajna. And this is how one is to ideally act in this world. But now this samachara also is a very beautiful word. Samachara here means as we keep engaging in the spirit of yajna, what happens, it's not a stress or a strain. See, that's why yajna is worship, and it's converting work to worship. When we say work, there's a sense of strain and stress and pressure, and we have to meet this deadline and we have to perform, and There's this sense in it. There's this sense in it. But when we talk about samachara, samachara means perform well, worship, there is no strain. There's no strain because there's a spirit of surrender. When there's a spirit of surrender, there is no strain. When there's a spirit of surrender, there's no stress. There's no worry. There's nothing. So, quick test. How to say if my action is performed in the yajna spirit. Is there stress? Is there pressure? Is there tension? Then what does it mean? It's not yajna spirit. But if one feels relaxed, composed, completely surrendered, that's called the yajna spirit. That's how one would know. That relaxation is samachara because it's done with love and surrender. Now, whatever happens, happens. What can we do, right? Our best flowed through. Now, whatever happens, let it be. I had said I'd give you an example. The example is in Ramayana. In Ramayana, what happens? Ramayana, Bharat gets the news that Sri Rama has gone to the forest because Kaikai had told him to go. So he had gone with Lakshmana and Sita Mata. And Bharata does not want to rule the kingdom because he has no thirst for the kingdom, nothing. He doesn't want anything to do with the kingdom. He wants Sri Rama to come back. But Sri Rama says to him, I'm not coming back. I cannot come back. But I will give you my padukas. You take that padukas. Padukas means his footwear, his sandals. You take those padukas and you rule with that. And so that's how Bharat ruled the kingdom. Bharat put the padukas on the throne. And he said it is Sri Rama doing the work, and whatever comes is only Sri Rama's. And that padukas was a symbol of that yajna spirit. So Bharatji felt that he was a complete instrument. He was just the instrument. Everything was only for Sri Rama. So that's why we see in some people, when they have some stores or some places, they say, this is Bhagavan's, this is Bhagavan's. Everything is just for Bhagavan. There is that sense of complete surrender. That is called Yajna Bhava. And that is a very beautiful way to live. When we see really, literally, that everything is God's and everything is for God. This is not only for work, this is for children also. Children is God's. Narayanaya swaha idam namamah. So these two phrases, these two Vedic mantras are very important. Imagine if we say, I'm raising this child. I'm an instrument to raise this child for God, to be able to benefit the world. And whatever happens, idam namamah. So in this way, everything is yajna. Everything is yajna. And so he says, if we perform work as worship, as yajna, then we will not be bound in this world. We will not be stressed or strained and bound and stuck. And therefore, that karma, the spirit of yajna, samachara, you do with love, do it well. And mukta sangaha, of course, free from whatever the results are. Whatever happens, let it happen. In life, whatever is meant to happen will happen. Just understand that whatever is meant to happen will happen. Let it go. We are all getting a result of our karmas only. So if something has come to us, that was meant to come to us. That's okay. We never know what kind of papa we did, what kind of punya we did. We don't know. So whatever is meant to come to us, it came. Accept and move on. But continue to live life in a yajna spirit. Now, somebody might say, I'm not convinced of this yajna spirit. You're saying dedicated to God, dedicated to the higher. I'm not convinced of it. I want to work for myself. And why can't I work for myself? I've done so many things. I came to this country with $5, and then now I've built this whole empire and I did everything by myself. So why can't I work for myself? What's wrong in that? So if the person thinks like this, then Bhagavan has an answer. So Bhagavan says, you listen to how Prajapati has created the world. This is very nice. Verse number 10. Saha yajna praja srishtva.
Saha yajna praja srishtva.
Purovacha prajapatihi.
Purovacha prajapatihi.
Anena prasavishyadvam.
Anena prasavishyadvam.
Eshavostvishta kamadhuka.
Yeshavostvishta kamaduk.
Saha yajna praja srishtva. Purovacha prajapatihi. Anena prasavishyadvam. Eshavostvishta kamadhuka. All right. So what does it say now in this verse? It says Prajapatihi. Prajapatihi, Prajanam Patihi, the creator of all beings. Prajapatihi, Pura. Pura means before. At the beginning of creation, Uvacha. This is what Prajapati said. And when did he say it? When was before? Srishtva, having created Prajaha, having created all beings, Saha Yajnaha, together with sacrifice. So Prajapati, the creator, having in the beginning of creation created mankind with sacrifices. Okay, so Prajapati created all beings with sacrifice. Saha Yajna means with sacrifice. Now this is like his quote. He says, Anena prasavishyadvam Eshavaha astu ishtakama dukha. So he says, Anena, by this yajna, prasavishyadvam, shall you propagate, shall you all prosper. Eshaha, let this yajna, astu, let it be, vaha, your ishtakama dukha, your cow which yields all desires. So it says, what he said, by this you shall propagate or prosper. Let this be the milk cow of all of your desires. Kama dukkha. Okay. So what did Prajapati say? He created the world, the whole world created with yajna, sacrifice. And he said, by this spirit of sacrifice, all of you should prosper. And this will be like your wish-fulfilling cow. This will be the yielder of all of your desires. Ishtakamaduk, the yielder of all of your desires will come from sacrifice. So what does it say? Prosperity comes from sacrifice. This is the main point here. Now, what is this sacrifice that he created with all beings? So here, very beautifully, now in your book, in my book, it's page 35. This is the Pancha Mahayajna. Prajapati created this world with 5 sacrifices. What does this mean? It means that all of us, every single one of us, have come to this world with 5 debts or 5 rinas. And our life is meant to be paying back these debts with yajna, the spirit of sacrifice. So let us go through each of these debts, and each of these debts are our duty. And we don't see them as a burden, but we actually see them as an opportunity to give and to serve. So if somebody has that mentality, why should I give? Why should I help others? We bring to their minds the 5 rinas, the 5 debts and the 5 yajnas. So first, let's start with the first one on your book. The first one is Deva Yagna. So we start with God. Deva means the devatas or deities or God. Now just think of how much we have received from God. Just do this exercise. And when we do this exercise, people ask always, uh, how come you don't have Thanksgiving Day, or how come, do you celebrate it? Do you celebrate anything like this? We have Pancha Mahayajnas. We have to do it every day. We have a life of gratitude. This is the life of a seeker. It's a life of gratitude. This is what we're meant to do. Hmm? So Deva Yagna, think how much we've received from God, the creator, the sustainer, the destroyer of this whole entire world, the one who's given us all of nature, all of the beings, the one who's given us all of our karma phalas, all of the results of our actions according to our karmas, the one who's nourished us, who sustained us, who's given us our family, our friends, the one who's given us enough joys for us to grow on the path, but also enough challenges by which we can even grow further. The one who has given us so much love, so much caring. There are things which we cannot explain, which only God can do. And we saw these things. We saw these things in Bhaja Govindam, that how, all of a sudden, a mother, the baby's in the mother's womb, how that baby comes out. How is it that slowly that fetus slowly grows to become a baby? And how is it that when the baby comes out, there's no teeth, and automatically the mother is able to feed the baby milk? And how is it that at the right time the baby gains teeth? Hmm? How is it at the right time the baby starts to learn how to walk? These are things we cannot explain. These are things that only God can do. It is said that in a baby, there are so many processes in the brain happening at one time. In a few minutes, so many brain processes. How is that all happening? That is not me or you or science. This thing is only God. So God is there. That the one who nourishes, who provides, who creates, who sustains. There is a being there. We cannot deny it. Cannot deny, because there's a cosmic order. There's an order. There's the sun rises and sets and the winds blow. There's a cosmic order. And gravity is still active and it doesn't fall. And that kind of thing you cannot do or I cannot do. So there is a certain debt that we owe to God, our devatas. The second debt here is called Brahma or Rishi Yajna. Now, how do we get to know God? It's only through our rishis, our saints and sages. They have provided us with all of these scriptures. Not one, but so many scriptures. And they have preserved it. And it's not like how now you and I can just go onto cloud or archive.org or just search. Not like that. These were preserved in memory, in certain intonations. Remember, each person had to memorize the whole shaka, the whole branch of that particular Veda. And this was passed on. And that was their dharma, to memorize that Veda and to pass it on, pass it on, pass it on. And then someone took the extensive work of writing it, putting it into writing. Then someone like Adi Shankaracharya ji takes the extensive work of writing commentaries on it. So imagine if we just had the Gita verses just as is, we wouldn't be able to understand it. Adi Shankaracharya ji explains each word, how it's related to each other, the meaning of the verse, what is its connection to the next verse. All of these things he explains. And it is people like Puja Gurudev who translates it in English, so it can also connect to us in such a way that it connects to us here and now. Now, this is a depth that, I mean, this is massive work our rishis have done, massive, to preserve our knowledge systems. So this is one rina that we have. Then we think about Pitra Yajna. the rina, that debt we owe to our ancestors, right? Our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents. Now, how they've preserved our culture, they've preserved our language, our script, they've kept it intact. Not only our language, our script, our dance, our forms of dance, our forms of music, of art, of even cooking. All of these things they've preserved. Even these games we play, gilli danda and kabaddi kabaddi, that's all from them. Everything they've preserved. Huh? And they've kept intact just to share it with us. So there's also some debt that we owe to them. Then we have Nri or Manushya Yajna, the debt that we owe to people in general. Now, how many people have come just out of the blue to help us? Huh? Just out of the blue. We don't know. We cannot count, especially during the times of the pandemic. How many people stood in front without even knowing who we are? I was reading now one story that there was one couple and they had an 8-year-old son and they were both doctors. And they decided that now it's the pandemic time. They had to drop their son to his grandparents. They said, we will have to go work. And that's a big sacrifice for parents, to let go of your child. They dropped their son to their grandparents and they did not see their son. They did not see their son for a long time. And they just kept working, kept working, kept working. Now, these are the people who we don't even know. And it's not just them, those people who are delivering food, those people who are just helping, counseling, guiding. We don't even know who they are, yet they serve us. So there is also a debt towards them. Then Bhuta Yagna, the beings, all of the beings, the plants, the trees, the animals, they are also serving us. They're also serving us in various ways. We don't realize it, but whenever we need to heal, we can just take a walk in nature. That is healing itself. The trees, of course, they provide oxygen. We get sunshine, air, fresh air, etc. But it's also so therapeutic. It increases concentration. It calms us down. It makes us become more mindful. And just walking in nature, being in nature, it enhances so much of our creativity and depth. How many times have we heard this example? Ocean and wave and water, Vedanta. Huh? That's by our rishis just meditating on nature. Or we will hear things like the gold and the golden bracelet, the clay pot, we hear the snake, the rope. These are just things that they just see and they contemplate upon it. The whole Avadhuta Gita, my 24 teachers, is all nature teaching us. So just by even being in nature, how healing it is. And all of the animals, because of this food web, everybody is serving their cause. Because of the, even from the algae or the plants, the herbivores, the carnivores, everybody, and those who even decompose the food, they're keeping the whole world going on. And so these beings also serve us. So the idea here is that we have these 5 debts. And Prajapati, the creator, said, this is how I've created the world, that everybody's doing their part. And everyone has to give towards these 5 debts. So these 5 debts are rinas. And the sacrifice or the offering which we make to them are called the yajnas. So he said, by this yajna, you all will prosper. Now just think, okay, what is the yajna that we can offer? Because we have to do these yajnas every day, right? These 5 yajnas every day. So the first one is the yajna towards God. How do we pay back that debt? So that we spoke about. Make every single action a worship of the divine. Every single action is to connect me to the divine. That is one way. Then in Brahma or Rishi Yajna, how to pay that debt is to study the scriptures, and to share it, because there's so much knowledge that they've packed. We have not even touched the tip of an iceberg. There's so much that they've done, and if we don't open it, if we don't study it, all of that knowledge will be lost. So by studying it, by sharing it, by discussing it, we are able to make that offering to them. Then the offering to our pitras, our ancestors, our parents, is by practicing our culture. Whatever our culture, whatever language we have, to try to sustain it. Whatever music or arts or sports, whatever we are into, to try to keep it going, because there's such a beauty in that culture. So to keep it on, to practice and to pass it on to the next generation, otherwise it will be lost. And then to Manushyas, or to the people, what is our dharma or our offering? Our offering is to give. You know, when people come to us and they say, I need help, sometimes we're like, oh my God, why does he need help? Why does she need help? Again, they're calling me, again, they're asking for help. Sometimes we have this kind of notion. But here in Manushya Yajna, we are happy when someone asks for help. We are happy because it's giving us an opportunity to serve. It's giving us an opportunity to perform Manushya Yajna. And that's why in back in the day, any guests that came for food or to beg, they were welcomed at home. And guests were called atithi. Tithi means date. Atithi, the one who comes without dates. Unannounced. We never know when they're going to come. But they were welcome because they were seen as Manushya Yajna. So many people have served us in so many ways, which we can't even imagine, right? Just think about how many people came, or how many people did it take for us to speak? So many, right? The alphabet, the language, our parents, our teachers, the sound, books, the printers. I mean, it's machinery. I mean, it's immense just for somebody to speak words, for us to speak words. So many people were involved in that process. And so, so when people need help, we say, yes, it's a Manushya Yajna. It's our turn to offer that, to give help. And how do we pay back all of the beings, all of nature, all of the animals? How do we pay them back? We pay them back by living simply. Remember, earth is our mother. Nature is our mother. And so when we live simply, with least amount of waste, with utmost awareness of what we're doing, then we are able to offer that to nature, because we're not harming nature. We're in fact helping to preserve nature by just taking minimum. Our way of life, as the Chinmay Mission pledge says, producing more than what we consume and giving more than what we take. Gurudev always said, he said, in any meeting, any place you go, always make sure you give more than what you take. Always make sure you give more than what you take. Whether you give by offering love, offering smile, offering money, offering talent, whatever it is, wherever you go, always make sure you give more than what you take. One should never be indebted to society, or to anybody for that matter. Only then one will live freely. So life for a seeker is this. It's full of gratitude, because we've received so much. And so now we see life as a way of just paying these back. But not like that it's a burden. Usually when we think of a debt, it's a burden. It's on my shoulders. But this is really out of love. You've given me so much. Now let me give back whatever I can. And I'll try to give as much as I can. And in this way, what Prajapati said was, he said, if we work this way, if all of us, anena prasavishyadvam, if all of us have this spirit of sacrifice, we shall prosper. Prasavishyadvam, we shall prosper, we shall grow. And he says, Vaha astu ishtakamatuk, then all of our desires will be fulfilled. So we work together in the spirit of Yajna, then what happens? Prosperity happens for everybody, not just for one person, for everybody. You know, when there is a saint or sage that lives in an area, how people prosper. That you've seen now Gurudev, wherever he has stayed, prosperity has come. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshiji stayed in Arunachala. So much prosperity has come. You know, this prosperity, don't only think of material wealth, but that spiritual unfoldment is what we're really looking for. That is true prosperity. And so when you think of our flag of India, of Bharat, why is the first color orange? First orange, white, and then green. Orange is the color of sacrifice. So it's to remind us that we are created with sacrifice. That is what our country is made of, sacrifice. And when we sacrifice together, as in the chakra, then what happens? Green, prosperity. Green is prosperity because it's that color of nature, blooming, of growth. That happens. So this, whatever is in our flag, whatever is in our culture, it's exactly what is said in the Gita. This is how we've been created, with sacrifice. Now, what happens with that sacrifice? How does it work? So let us see. Very beautiful verse also. These verses by Prajapati are very beautiful. If we can just reflect on them, we would never ever feel the need to complain or to question, or even this, why should I help? Why should I give? These questions will never ever come to the mind if we truly understand what yajna is. It's our dharma. This is how we are made. And that sacrifice also is not a strain, but it's surrender. Okay, verse 11. Devan bhavayatanena.
Devan bhavayatanena.
Te deva bhavayantu vaha.
Te deva bhavayantu vaha.
Parasparam bhavayantaha.
Parasparam bhavayantaha.
Shreyah paramavapsyatha.
Shreyah paramavapsyatha.
Devan bhavayatanena. Te deva bhavayantu vaha. Parasparam bhavayantaha. Shreyah paramavapsyatha. So what does it say here? Now, how can this be achieved by sacrifice? Devan bhavayata anena. So anena, with this spirit of yajna or sacrifice, bhavayata, may you all nourish devan, may you all nourish the gods. The gods here stands for all of the 5 yajnas. The gods, the ancestors, the rishis, the beings, all of the yajnas. And te devaha bhavayantu vaha. What happens is, in turn, those gods will nourish us back. So when we nourish the gods, our ancestors, the rishis, the beings, etc., when we nourish them, they also nourish us back. And this parasparam bhavayantaha, this phrase is very important. So pay attention to this verse. Parasparam means one another, bhavayantaha, nourishing one another. When this is practiced, shreyaha param avapsyatha, then that good, that shreyaha, that highest good, avapsyatha, one shall attain. So what does this mean? So he says, with this, you nourish the gods, and may those devas nourish you, and nourishing one another, you shall attain the highest good. So now, here in this Yajna, Gurudev has given a very beautiful definition. It's on my page 25. I will just read it. He says, Yajna here means any self-sacrificing work undertaken in a spirit of self-dedication for the welfare of all. Such an action cannot be self-degrading, and therefore it is self-liberating. So this is Yajna. Very, very beautiful definition of Yajna. Now, how does this work? See, life is all about this, parasparam bhavayantaha. It's about nourishing each other. Whenever we nourish each other, shreyaha avapsyatha, we gain that ultimate good. What is that ultimate good? Of course, what happens is we unfold, we spiritually unfold, because the mind becomes pure, free from likes and dislikes and selfishness. We become very expansive. We begin to see oneness in all, and therefore we become so ready for this Jnana Yoga. So that Shreya means you're ready for that Jnana Yoga. You're ready for that highest path now, because of this parasparam bhavayantaha. If we cannot even see oneness, how can we realize one? So first, this oneness must be seen in the world. Now, how do we nourish each other? So first we will we'll go through the 5 yajnas and we'll see how we nourish each other. For the Deva Yagna, for God, right? When we dedicate our actions towards God, everything we do towards God, what happens is we get what is called grace. There's always this question about what is grace and what is self-effort and how does that work? I'm just going to give you a very simple example and you'll understand exactly what it is, okay? So let us say we're all in our room and there's a fire in the middle. There's a fire in the middle and we're all sitting around the fire. Now our self-effort is walking towards that fire. It's just walking towards that fire. What is grace? The heat of the fire. The heat of the fire. So when we walk towards the fire, we are offering our actions towards God, and automatically we will feel more and more heat. Automatically, it's automatic because we walked. So automatically when we offer, we get grace. That is what it is. And remember, Bhagavan also, as we saw last time, is that all those qualities to fullness, that vairagya, that dispassion in its fullness is in God. Wealth in its fullness is in God. Glory in fullness is in God. Liberation in fullness is in God. So when we offer to God, we get God and those qualities, those God-like qualities. So imagine that. You walk towards the fire, you get the heat. Parasparam bhavayantaha. We walk away from the fire, we will feel cold. Right? That's just the way life works. Brahma or Rishi Yajna. We study the scriptures in depth, we reflect upon them, we contemplate upon them. What do we get? Moksha, liberation. Parasparam bhavayantaha. We take up that yajna, we read, we reflect, we sincerely inquire, we'll get moksha. In one text, Vidyaranyaji says, if you're sincere on this path and sincerely inquiring, even if you don't want moksha, you'll get it. Even if you don't want it, you'll get it. It's very beautiful, isn't it? Then for Pitra Yajna, we uphold our culture, our language, our music, our art, our traditions. We do that. What do we get? We get such purity of mind. We get such purity of mind because the premise of culture is, it's called Sanskriti. Sanskriti means that which refines the mind. Our culture is so beautiful in that everything brings a focus. And this is not just our culture, but many, many cultures. If you just think about dance, Bharatanatyam, we're trained to, wherever our hands move, the eyes have to move there. Wherever the hands go, the eyes have to go there. So that is concentration. If you think about sports also, whatever sport you take up, you have to be there. You cannot move here and there. You have to be focused on that sport. If you take up Sanskrit, it will rack your brains. It's very, very methodical. So much memory power will increase just by taking up that language, because so many things one has to remember and formulas one has to put together. So it refines the mind. Culture refines the mind. And not only those sports, arts, literature, but even the qualities we've learned from our culture. The spirit, what we've learned from our parents. I'll tell you some of the values that we learned from our parents is endurance, titiksha. How much our parents have endured, so much. That also we get when we really connect with them. We really get that. We sit with grandparents, sit with the parents and find out their stories. We get those qualities from them. So it's not just those things, but those values. It's those values of respect, of integrity. So the mind becomes purified. Parasparam bhavayanta. Manushya Yajna, when we help others, we are also helped in return. Everybody here, I am very sure, has had one stranger or another stranger help them in time of need. Somebody who we didn't even know, but that ultimate time of need, that person was there. Just when you need that person was there, right? Everybody has this. So they will come. And Bhuta Yajna. Now, what to talk about now? The animals and the nature. There's so many stories how the dogs have protected the children. The children, I was reading some few things there that one child got lost in the forest, but the dog followed the child. And luckily the child was in the forest the whole night. And the child was only 2 years old. The dog followed the child, protected the child. And when they found the child was safe, completely safe because of the dog. And one other incident was there, that there was a young lady, and she was in the forest, and there was this man, harassing her. 3 lions came to her. I said, that's Durga Mata. That's the lions. 3 lions came to her rescue, and that man left. But they feel. Animals can feel. They can sense. Nature can also feel and sense. When we take care of nature or such animals, they also take care of us. It is very, very true. So everything in the world works in this spirit. Parasparam bhavayantaha. Everybody nurtures each other. And that's the way we work. And when this thing doesn't happen, the whole thing breaks down. It just breaks down. Because we've forgotten this. So when we forgot that we are created with sacrifice, and that sacrifice leads to prosperity, and that our spirit of living is parasparam bhavayantaha, mutually supporting one another. When we forget this, then the whole system crumbles down. Now, we will just read verse 14. I'll just give you a brief intro because I won't be able to cover that. Not 13, 12. We'll read verse 12. Just intro I'll give you, and then more to come next week. Okay? Ishtan bhogan hi vo devaha
Ishtan bhogan hi vo devaha
dasyante yajna bhavitaha
dasyante yajna bhavitaha
tairdattana pradayebhyaha
tairdattana pradayairbhyaha
yo bhungte stena eva saha
yo bhungte stena eva saha
ishtan bhogan hi vo devaha dasyante yajna bhavitaha tairdattana pradayebhyaha yo bhungte stena eva saha. So what this says is, Ishtan Bhogan, those desired objects, he certainly, Vaha, to you, Devaha Dasyante, will give. So as long as we engage in the spirit of sacrifice, definitely the Devatas, they will give us whatever objects we have desired. And who are those devas? Yajna bhavitaha. They, the devatas who've been nourished by us, they will give it to us, whatever we desire. But tair dattan, that which was given by the devatas, apradaya ebhyaha, the one who does not offer anything to them, yaha bhumte, the one who enjoys without offering anything to them, sahastena eva, that person is a thief. So the devas nourished by the sacrifice will give you the desired objects. Indeed, he who enjoys objects given by the devas without offering in return is a thief, is a stena. So who is that thief? We will see in the next class. What is the description of that thief and how somebody becomes a thief? All right. So I'll just sum up in one or two lines. The main thing today was that our lives should be a yajna, a spirit of worship, a spirit of sacrifice, because there are so many things that we've received from everybody. And if you ever feel sad, one quick tip to be happy is count how many people have blessed you in your life, and you will never feel sad. You'll never ever feel sad. You just keep counting all of the blessings, and one will never feel sad. And one will also feel that feeling of wanting to give so much more because we've received. And in this way, parasparam bhavayanta, when we nourish each other, lots of prosperity happens. But if we don't, system breaks down. All right. We'll say the closing prayer, then I just have some announcements. Please stay back. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Okay. So first announcement.